Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome to the podcast number 16. Now, check this out. The podcast you're about to listen to was recorded a little while ago. Little did I know while recording, though, I was using my desktop to record my audio and not my actual microphone. This means that my audio is very, very bad compared to Smug's, and that it'll be a little bit choppy sometimes. Please bear with me because me and Smug are really busy, guys. We will not have the time to go back and record this almost hour's worth of audio for you guys. So, without further ado, I welcome you to podcast number 16 with Smugstick. Hey, what is up, Plus Ultra fam? It is me, Plus Ultraman, and today we have a very special guest on the channel. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Hello everyone, my name is Smugstick. You might have seen me around because I've done a couple of collabs with Plus Ultraman, but it's great to be here.
Very great to have you, my guy. So, today we're going to do what we usually do when we have a guest, and we're going to do a pretty quick non-scripted what if, and today's is actually going to be what if Goku was raised by Kami. I don't have exactly who suggested this off the top of my head. If I look it up later, I will put it in the description below, but somebody just suggested this in some type of way, and I'm really curious about doing this one because Smug has done on his channel what if Goku was raised by King Piccolo, and I've done some things where Goku kind of becomes friends with Piccolo Jr. like really early on, so it's kind of a cool fusion between us. So Smug, how would you set this scenario up?
Well, it depends on what exactly we want it to, like, it depends on how Goku gets to Earth. If we have him land in Mount Paozu, like normal, and then something happens to Grandpa Gohan, that's one way to do things. Another way to do things is that he just straight up gets thrown into the lookout. Kami and Popo find just an orb in the middle of their sacred place, and they freak out and try to figure out what's going on with that. I think the second option's a little more fun, because we get to see the reactions of them right away.
I also agree. The second option probably is the better one, because if you really think about it, Goku landed on Mount Paozu in canon, and Kami does nothing about it. I'm sure he noticed something, like, okay, there's another spaceship that just landed here, but I'm not really going to do anything about it. And that means that we also get to skip out on Grandpa Gohan dying, which is also really cool, because I just love stories where Grandpa Gohan gets to live and just kind of be an old man in the mountains by himself and just enjoy himself. So yeah, that actually happens here. Nothing really bad happens to Grandpa Gohan. Goku could land on the lookout. Kami and Mr. Popo are likely really freaked out by this. And I'm really curious as to what Kami might do here, because I believe Kami canonically does have the power to read minds, kind of like how Goku and the Grand Elder Guru do later in the series, or how they show you they can later in the series. I'm not sure if Kami ever shows that he does it, but he uses telepathy, so I'd imagine it's possible. And even then, it's Dragon Ball. A lot of things are possible. So I would say that Kami probably can read the young Goku's mind and kind of say, like, okay, this kid's, from a different planet, and he's lost all his, people, because apparently they sent him off so he didn't get killed with them. So do you think that Kami could somehow figure out who Goku is, what Goku is, where he came from?
I think that his mind-reading abilities are definitely up there enough to be able to figure some things out. I don't know if he'd be able to figure out everything. I don't know if he'd be able to, see the last thing Goku saw in Planet Vegeta or stuff like that. I'd say that he'd more be able to sense what kind of things he was meant to do. For example, I feel like he would read his mind and figure out, oh, this kid's gonna try to take over the world and kill everyone, because that's what he was programmed to do, at least in the original story. And I feel like from there, Kami would probably just want to leave him or something like that, and then Popo would intervene and say, yo, we could take care of him, because I've always felt like Kami was really cold compared to Popo, and Popo would probably want to take care of him, and Kami would probably let him, and I think from then on, Popo would start training with the kid and racing him, teaching him how to grow his plants and stuff like that.
I feel like over time, Mr. Popo would push in that, hey, you don't have to be a fighter. You don't have to, be violent and stuff. His pacifism will probably get passed on to Goku. I think that's really possible.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, I like this stuff you said about the Ozaru. I feel like Mr. Popo wouldn't even try to cut off his tail or destroy the moon. I feel like he'd figure out another way to calm him down, maybe through some kind of illusions, or a good chop in the neck one way or the other. He'd probably be able to figure out one way to do it without hurting Goku physically, or things to do with the planet. And I also feel like beyond that, once after they've gotten this relationship going, Popo will definitely try to get him to not ever be what he was meant to be, as in a Saiyan to destroy the planet and all that stuff. I think that Kami would eventually see the potential that Goku has in how strong he is and the love he has for plants, animals, and humanity. Goku will probably want to go down to the surface every now and then. I don't know if they would necessarily let him because of how unpredictable he is at times. You know, there's been stories like that. Can't think of any in particular right now. But I feel like Goku is curious enough through everything we see in Dragon Ball that he definitely at least try to sneak out of the lookout and look around.
Definitely, because Goku, at the beginning of the series, he's not necessarily a fighter, he's more of an adventurer. So it would make sense for him to be like, alright, I don't really want to be cooped up here for my entire life. Now, when he starts doing that, that's kind of questionable. That's kind of to the author if you really want to get nitty and gritty with it. But yeah, he would definitely go out and explore things and try and go meet different people, because he'd be having to talk to Popo and listen like, hey, the trees and the grass and the people, and these are all things that we want to protect and stuff like that. He'd want to go experience these things and meet them himself. So I imagine him trying to sneak off the lookout a few times and probably getting stopped by Popo, honestly, because Popo can sense ki and he sends Goku like trying to seek down the power pole and stuff like that. Well, they wouldn't have the power pole, but still. So I feel like at some point Popo and Kami would be like, all right, let's just let him kind of go off on small expeditions and just kind of see the surrounding areas around here with one of us accompanying him, and that way there's somebody looking at him and watching him, make sure he's not tearing anything up. So you could actually get some type of scene where Mr. Popo on his carpet and Goku kind of just fly down and maybe check out Bora and Upa's village and maybe meet them and talk to them, or maybe meet Korn really early on in the series. But that probably be as far as Goku goes for a really long time, I think.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that. I think they would be somewhat strict about it. But one thing that I was thinking of is the fact that Kami does offer Goku to become the Guardian of Earth in the actual story. And I feel like eventually things would come to that. Kami would realize just the person that Goku's become and really want to pass on the torch to him that way, and they take on the training from Popo. But the only thing I have about that is that I feel like it would be a really cool dynamic since Kami knows that he has the dark side inside of him, that he would see Goku the same way he saw himself and tell Goku that he has to take care of that dark side that he has inside of him. Not necessarily make another half of himself like Kami did, but really train to suppress and completely erase that Saiyan mentality that Goku has sometimes.
And that'd be a really interesting thing, because there could be some poor consequences of that later on in the series that Kami just wouldn't have the foresight to really know about. There are certain things about Saiyan mentality that a Saiyan might need to have to, say, reach Super Saiyan, or maybe, want to keep pushing past their limits and stuff like that. There's a lot of little factors like that, but I do 100% agree that at some point, just seeing that, wow, training with Popo is making him really, really strong, and he's also adopting Popo's mentality and his ideals really, really easily, to the point where he might be the best successor I could probably get. So I feel like around when Goku's maybe starting to get to the same age we see him at when he's, starting the series, 12 or 13, maybe then Kami's considering, like, all right, maybe he could, be worth something. That said, how long is this really taking? What's really going on Earth right now that Goku isn't really a part of Grandpa Gohan's life? He's still there, which means Bulma would have to meet him to get the Dragon Balls. Like, what's happening in this situation? It's kind of like what if Goku didn't land on Earth, but Goku's still on Earth. He's just not really interacting with everybody yet.
Right, yeah. I think a lot of it would have to end up being Grandpa Gohan doing the legwork that Goku would have done, collecting the Dragon Balls, taking care of the Pilaf gang. I covered all that stuff in the video we mentioned, but I think when it comes to like huge threats, Goku would feel what's going on down there and really want to help out and probably be stopped, like we said, by Mr. Popo. For example, I feel like the Red Ribbon Army was enough of a threat for Kami and the others to be aware of it, and Goku would probably want to help out with that. If not that, then definitely once King Piccolo is revived, which I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be revived in this timeline. Goku would definitely push aside anything that Kami warns him about or anything like that and go down there and try to defeat Piccolo.
Now, here's the power scaling part of this scenario. How strong has this Goku really gotten? You know, if this is going along the same timeline and Goku's around 15 when he's fighting King Piccolo, this means he's had at least 15 years of training with Mr. Popo, who I think his first canonical power level is 1030, which is pretty insane. It might not have been that high in, you know, this period of time. I don't know if that's ever really been stated, but Mr. Popo was strong. We know Mr. Popo was really, really strong. Goku's been training with him. This means he learns ki control and sensing ki really, really early on in the series, which is going to make him a lot stronger than what he was when he fought King Piccolo. So, how strong would you really place this Goku?
To be honest, I'd still put him below Kami and maybe even Mr. Popo at this point. I feel like Goku doesn't surpass his masters super quickly, at least not when they're so high above him. Master Roshi was like really high above him, and even after one whole arc, he wasn't able to get stronger than him. So I feel, even if it is 15 years, since Popo is such a pacifist, I feel like he still wouldn't be quite up there. But I feel like he'd definitely give Piccolo a run for his money and probably be able to defeat him.
That's a really fair point. Something else to think about with that is Mr. Popo, I'm not sure if the scene where he's holding Trunks and Goten as Super Saiyans is canon, but I feel like it's not yet. I feel like if Mr. Popo feels like, okay, I'm responsible for Goku, Goku is in all but blood, my son, then his kind of, you know, tendencies to turn into this giant monkey thing, that is also my responsibility, even though he has to get control of that himself at some point. So this means I need to continue to kind of just make myself stronger and stronger little by little, just to make sure that he's not going to be a threat to the world that he has to protect at some point. So I can definitely see Mr. Popo maybe getting a bit stronger over the years, just to make sure that, all right, I just got to make sure he's always somewhere under me, just in case something goes wrong. I want to take care of him. I care about him. I just don't want him to, you know, have a situation where he messes up just because he's gotten too strong and he has this part of him that he just can't control yet, and he ruins something. So I definitely see that being possible. So Goku would go on to defeat King Piccolo. I'm guessing we'll say that Piccolo Jr. is still born, just so we don't lose Kami so early on in the series. Do you think after this that Goku would return to go and, you know, finish his training with Mr. Popo just to take on Piccolo Jr.? And if so, do you think this would be really similar to the canon story, where it might just end up with Goku defeating Piccolo Jr. and if he's been influenced by Kami, possibly being like, all right, well, Kami wants you sealed up again, so sealing him or letting him go?
Well, what I was thinking about is, I think the fight between Piccolo Sr. and Goku would be not super, like, Goku has it too easy, but a little close. It's to the point that Goku's able to realize that, oh crap, you know, there's people that are really powerful out there, and I need to be able to defend the world. And I feel like he's gonna go up to Kami and go up to Popo and be like, yo, I gotta step it up a notch. Have you got anything else I can do? And I think at that point, Kami and Popo would be able to introduce him to the Room of Spirit and Time, which they would have definitely been against him using before.
That makes sense. Now, if he's been influenced by Kami and Mr. Popo all his life, which means he's likely been doing a lot of meditation, which I would say has made his like mental strength really, really high, to where he can go through a lot of like mental strain. Do you think he'd be able to spend longer inside the Room of Spirit and Time, even at this age?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I really think that Goku would be able to handle a long time. Maybe not a year, but at least a couple of months more than Goku did at the same time in the original timeline.
And even that can result in some really massive gains in power, especially if he's already starting off, somewhere relevant to like where he was when he actually went in canon, and then he still has the idea of like, I know how to train with my ki and sense it and stuff like that. So yeah, I could see Goku going in for, let's say, 6 months this time. I think it was 2 or 3 in canon, and he would do 12 hours, 6 months in the room, and comes out and he'd be a lot stronger. Now, do you think he just finishes his training normally like he does in canon, or do you think he might try and say, okay, I'm going to take a little time off, but I kind of want to go back in and see if I can do 1 year and just use his 2 days? I remember originally you only had 2 days, and that was it. They might change that later on for this timeline, but do you think he would try and say, no, I want to do 1 year. I want to do 1 full year in there, and he might take a little time off?
I think he'd probably want to push him.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I feel like Goku would be definitely want to push himself to that point, and I think Kami would see that and be like, like somebody that it looks like he's yearning for power. Maybe he's not fit to be Kami himself. Maybe he'd have that doubt in there somewhere. But I think like Goku would definitely want to push himself for that 1 whole year.
It's definitely possible. Now, if that were to happen, let's say he does get that 1 whole full year in there, and Kami is still kind of like, I don't know, he's seeming kind of like power lustful. I don't know if that's what I really want for him to really be the new Kami. Do you think he might say, okay, Goku, I want you, well, his name might not be Goku in this timeline, but for the sake of just making it easier on us, we'll still say Goku. Goku, I want you to go out and experience the world and see what you're protecting, see what you are actually, taking care of right now. And maybe that could send Goku on this journey where he's still wanting to be stronger, he's still wanting to be more powerful, but he's seeing like, okay, the world is really, really beautiful and big, and if I'm going to be the new god of Earth, this is going to be my responsibility. So it can't just be about power, it has to be about power to protect and nothing else. Could that really be where he sends him, or do you think Kami would just flat out say, no, you just can't be Guardian, kind of like how the Guardian did with him initially? Do you think he still sees too much darkness, too much sand in Goku to let him be Guardian?
I think Kami would give him that chance and let him go out and experience the world, and maybe that's when he hears about the Tenkaichi Budokai, and that's when he joins, and then Piccolo comes in, and maybe that's where he meets some of the other Z fighters. The Krillin would definitely be there. Tenshinhan and Chaozu may still be evil there, and stuff like that. I feel like if he was given that chance by Kami, he'd definitely be able to make friends at this point.
And those friends would be really, really beneficial to this version of Goku, who just hasn't really dealt with many people outside of Mr. Popo and Kami. So if this were to happen, since Goku has never met Chi-Chi early on, she wouldn't join the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai, and she wouldn't actually meet him later on to say like, hey, you promised to marry me. So when the tournament is over, Goku can just go back to the lookout and complete his training. If Kami's finally said, okay, now it seems like you've finally got your head on straight, you're the new god of Earth. Do you think that might be what happens, or do you think something else could happen where it's like, let's do a little trial run and see how you do for a little while? How do you think what goes on from here?
It's weird because all the stuff we know about being God of Earth basically comes from Dead Zone.
Yeah.
So so that's a little difficult to tell them exactly how all of this works, because at least from what I gather from that is that Kami dies when he gives away the power, or something like that. I don't. It's not really clear how it works, but I think once he's done with the tournament, he defeats Piccolo. He lets him go. I think if he does let him go, Kami would be like, "You don't have what it takes to be God, because you would have killed him, and I would be gone, and you would be God. I think you're too soft." There's two sides to this. You have to be strict, but you can't be evil, and you're not meeting in the middle. You're really far to the soft side, Goku. I feel like if he were to take that, Kami would see it that way to a degree. I feel like this version of Kami would see it that way, at least, because of all he's seen Goku go through, and he's raced them and all that stuff. In the original timeline, the original story, Kami, that's when Kami offers him to become God. But I don't know. I feel like Kami would be too suspicious of Goku still.
No, I totally agree with that. And that would also add a lot of weight to being God of Earth. If you're going to be God of Earth, you have to be impartial. You can't see like, oh, this country's fighting with this country. I guess I got to let them do what they're going to do. Those might, do whatever. So there's a lot of like moral and like emotional turmoil that probably comes with Kami's job that we've never really been exposed to as fans of the series. You actually just made me think of that. That's a really cool aspect of like Goku would have to like have a completely different mindset from what he has right now. You can't let the bad guy go. You can't say, hey, I'm going to let my son, beat you up. You have to be the one to finish it every time. That's a really interesting idea. Oh, wow. For real, like that really just kind of like blew me away.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool to explore. That's why I kind of wish that Dead Zone was canon now, because seeing this Goku in a story like that would be really cool.
I kind of wish Dead Zone was canon just so the Garlic Jr. saga could also be canon. Those are two reasons I wish Dead Zone was canon. What we just talked about and the Garlic Jr. saga, because I just love it so much. But we'll wrap the What If up really, really soon. What do you think Goku's reaction to Kami saying, you're still not ready? Because I feel like, me personally, I feel like Goku might react to that with anger. I feel like he might be like, I've been training my entire life. I've meditated. I've done whatever you asked of me, and still you don't think I'm ready for this. What is wrong with you? I feel like Goku would really get mad at this, and it would be his first real showing of negative emotion in a really long time. That would probably just, cement it in Kami's mind. Like, no, you're still not ready.
Yeah, exactly. I feel that's a really good way to put things. If Goku did get upset like that, I feel like Kami would just be like, nah, yeah, bye. And he'd probably leave right then and there. And, Kami has the ability to decide who gets to come up to the lookout and not. I feel like that at that point, if Goku did try to return, Kami wouldn't allow it. And he'd probably be forced to stay down there. And, he'd probably start to train with other people at that point. Maybe Tenshin Han, Krillin, and stuff like that, and start to learn a bit more about what Kami's talking about until the Saiyans arrive. And then he can prove himself once again, and Kami would finally be like, alright, fine.
I love that idea, because we've kind of established that Mr. Popo was the one who really raised Goku in this. So I could see Mr. Popo really being against that with Kami. Like, Kami, this is, for all intents and purposes, my son, and you're finna like separate me from my son. So I really see there being like tension about the like, Kami, this is my kid, dude. Like, what are you doing? And Goku would probably be on Earth, like, all right, if this is how it's gonna be, cool. I don't need Kami. I'll protect the world on my own, and he'll be worthless to me, and I'll show everybody how I'm better than God and stuff like that. So it'd be a really cool kind of like, not egotistical, but like a Goku who really has something to prove. And he has the next 5 years with no Chi-Chi, no Gohan, Tien, Yamcha, if Yamcha is still, joined the Dragon team and he still wants to be a fighter, Krillin, Master Roshi, if Master Roshi is interested in him. He has all these guys to train with now for 5 years, and he's got a chip on his shoulder to train with? Dude, this Goku is going to be trained to be a monster right now. And Piccolo Jr. was let go, so Piccolo Jr. probably notices that Goku doesn't like Kami anymore. I don't like Kami anymore. Maybe there's something that we can, work out together. So maybe there could be some type of alliance between Goku and Piccolo Jr. where it's like, you might not be the best dude, but I bet if I can like change you to be a good guy and you help me protect the Earth, we'll show up Kami even more than that. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, middle finger to Kami. That's kind of how I see this Goku being.
Yeah, that'd be super cool. I really like that. Like, that would be a perfect cliffhanger too.
I think that's where we should leave that off, because the interactions with Raditz and stuff, that could be really interesting. If you guys ever want to see me or Smug kind of pick that up, let me know, and I might do it in another podcast, or I might get him back onto the podcast, do it at some other time. Something else we wanted to talk about today was how me and Smug actually do what ifs. So Smug, can you kind of walk the audience through your process of actually making a what if timeline?
Well, first I have to decide the actual topic. A lot of it has to. It usually starts with a character that I want to play around with, because Dragon Ball is a huge sandbox of just things I can mess around with the storytelling. As long as it stayed within the bounds of the characters I use and stuff like that, and not go too far beyond, I think I can make a pretty good story that people would enjoy. But it depends on which character I'm feeling at the moment. Lately, I've been feeling a lot of Bardock. There's been a lot of Bardock on my channel, so I've made like 3 what ifs with him in it lately. So once I decide on the character, I decide on what I need to change. For example, one of my latest ones was what if Bardock was wrong. So I decided the character Bardock. I decided what can I change about his story. The fact that he was right about Frieza wanting to destroy Planet Vegeta. Change that, flip it around, just write, continue writing, seeing where the story takes me.
Okay, that's kind of similar to what I do. My whole thing is kind of like you. I just choose like, okay, what character is this really going to focus on? Great example of this, that is also a bad example of this, is the What If Goku Landed on Planet Namek series, which I recently just brought to a close. Now, based on the title of that, it seems like, okay, Goku is the center focus of this entire story. He's really not. I think in the entirety of the 4th part, the story goes mostly through Bardock, and in a lot of the other parts, it kind of goes through Vegeta and Broly, and Goku's kind of like always in the background. And that's because Goku wasn't really ever supposed to be the main character in that scenario. Goku was supposed to be more of a catalyst to make a lot of changes with stuff. He is the main character, he is the main focus point, but he wasn't just the central axis of things. So when I choose the character, I also try and kind of map out like, okay, what does this character do in the original story? What happens if character A doesn't do action A or action B? What changes here? What can change here? And I try and look at all those possible outcomes, and I try and look at all the possible ones, and I also try and look at all the ones that are a little more improbable. And I say, okay, what is more interesting for a story? If it's more interesting for a story but it's less likely, I try and say like, hey, this is a less likely solution, this is a less likely route to take, but it's the more interesting one for a story. I'm not saying that this couldn't happen. I'm not saying that, oh, because Goku didn't do this, he might die in this fight. I'm saying that's very possible, but I'm also saying that because it's less interesting for the story, we're going to just go a different route with it and look at something else. That's usually how I try and start a what if scenario off. From there, kind of how do you go about your actual writing process when you're trying to think about things that can happen with the story, things that will actually change the story? I know we were just talking about your what if Goku joined the Saiyans story. How did you kind of go about the process of saying, okay, now that Goku and the Saiyans have come to Earth and fought against the Z Fighters, now they're going to Namek? How did you come about these processes?
Well, I usually go to the manga or the anime, look at how Toriyama did things, see where he made specific choices, and just see what characters are involved and what other things could have happened if that didn't happen, stuff like that. A lot of to actually write, I listen to the Dragon Ball soundtrack and or another album that I would listen to, some bands. A lot of the times when I listen to that music, and if it tells a story, I end up writing to the music, if that makes sense. For example, sticking with the Bardock one I was talking about, I was listening to Welcome to the Black Parade when I started writing that. And that basically tells a story of a dad dying and leaving a legacy and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, I could obviously make this about Goku and Bardock, but instead I made it about King Vegeta and Vegeta, so that was a lot of fun. As far as the Saiyans things go, that one's a lot, I mean the What If Goku Joined the Saiyans, that one's a lot more wacky than my other What Ifs. That one takes a lot more chances, and it's very much, it's a lot wilder than the other ones. So with stuff like that, when I really wanna go crazy and like make things that don't necessarily make too much sense, I just think, hey, you know, this would be out of character, but it would make a cool scene, so I'm just gonna do it.
I totally get the writing to music idea because I have written so many stories to music. One I know I wrote something to was it was from the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie on the original soundtrack. It's the track called "I Am Kakarot." It's where Goku is leaving Vampa with Broly. And he's like, "Oh, by the way, Broly, call me Kakarot." And they have they're like dun, 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 and it's got like trumpets and stuff like that. I really liked that song, and I found like an extended version of it. And I was listening to it, and that's kind of where I started to get the whole what if Goku landed on Namek idea, because I was like, okay, this kind of sounds like a really kind of triumphant kind of, yeah, I'm here, I'm bad, you know, get used to me kind of song. And I don't know what the story kind of told me, and part of it was me putting my own story to the song, but you know, that really helped my creativity kind of flow. So I definitely get the whole listening to a song thing, because that applies to me so well. Something I try and do with that kind of whole writing process is I try and say, and some people might not like this idea, some people might, I try and say, what's something I've always wanted to see happen that likely will never ever happen in the original Dragon Ball? What has happened in this timeline that I can change to have that actually happen? Great example of this is the What If Piccolo Jr. became good early story. Kaioken to this day is still one of my favorite techniques in Dragon Ball. And I remember like always being like, yo, Piccolo should really know Kaioken, because based on like how it affects Goku, it wouldn't affect Piccolo the same way. He'd probably have to be able to use it a lot better than Goku can for longer. So with that story, I was like, okay, if Piccolo turns good early, then he and Goku can train together. If they train together, this means that when Raditz is defeated, if he does get defeated, or he does in that timeline, if he gets defeated, then they could go to Otherworld together and train with King Kai. I did it in a way that Piccolo didn't have to die, and he and Kami are still alive, so Goku could be wished back. But yeah, like Goku and Piccolo train and learn Kaioken. That was something I set out to do in that timeline, and because of how I set it up, because I did things a logical way, that it doesn't really deserve a ton of explanation, because like, okay, that's a logical thing, that makes sense, it works. So that's something I usually do, is like, what do I really, really, really want to see from this timeline? And something that really does that for me is like, okay, have I seen like a movie scene recently that is something like, I kind of want to emulate that, but in a different story, in a different way. That happens a lot. I think the other day we were brainstorming, and I sent you a clip from Gamera, and I'm a huge kaiju movie fan. I was like, okay, this like Smug has a story that it could kind of work for. So I sent you that, and I'm kind of feeling, I'm not feeling everything, but that's something I do, is I try and say, okay, what are things I really want to see in this type of story? Oh, sorry, I should have said your turn.
Yeah, okay, sorry, can you repeat that last part?
Yeah, I was saying, like, I try and find inspiration from outside things, whether it be music, movies, other anime, whatever it may be, to say, like, okay, how would I want to see this happen, or something like this happen in a Dragon Ball story, in a Naruto story, in a My Hero Academia story? How would I want to see those things really happen there? And usually, I find some way to have it happen really naturally and really logically.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put the things, how I do things. For example, maybe not necessarily actual scenes or events and stuff like that, but maybe the themes or mood and stuff like that. For example, I was watching a spaghetti western the other day, and I was like, damn, I could make a what if like this. Just make it like super, maybe cheesy, very, you know, westerny. With the Dragon Ball soundtrack lends itself to western anyways, so using it in the right way could be really cool, you know, just Goku, Vegeta standing in front of each other, wind blowing, they don't have any more energy, you just have one blast left each of them. Whoever fires first is gonna be the winner of this last battle. You know, stuff like that, just taking tropes and ideas that happen in other completely different pieces of fiction that but could work in Dragon Ball, because Dragon Ball is a very versatile series because of just how wild and crazy the universe is and how many different angles of fiction it has taken on. It's been sci-fi, it's been fantasy, it's been what's it called, cyberpunk. It's been so many types of things, that I think it's a very versatile series for writing like this.
It definitely is. One thing about Dragon Ball that I've always really respected is that when it has those tone changes from an adventure series to a martial arts series to a space opera, it is the most natural tonal shift. Like, I think the most jarring moment where the tone shifts is when Raditz arrives and he's like, yo, we're actually aliens. That's probably the most jarring moment. After that, it's so smooth between everything. We go from aliens to androids, from androids to demons, and then from that to gods, and it's such a like very smooth tonal shift that I always really respected that. And that's something you're totally right about, is that it lends itself really, really well to creative writing. It's like, okay, I can do really and truly whatever you want to with this mythos, because the mythos itself does whatever it wants to with itself. So it is really, really cool and versatile. That's another really cool thing that makes Dragon Ball What If so easy to make. That's also why I've done more Dragon Ball What Ifs than any other What If on my channel, just because, or any other series on my channel, just because Dragon Ball is one of the best series for it. It works. It really just works. So we've gone over like picking characters. We've gone over like picking specific themes and motives and, you know, things you want to see in the series. How do you try and find a balance between the, you know, the logical, you know, A, B, C type of what if thinking between that and what comes down to basically fan fiction? What comes down to, okay, now Goku just doesn't marry Chi-Chi. Now he goes off and waits like 20 years and he meets Cauliflower and he marries her. Because I've seen that type of like crazy. It's like, why? How do you, you know, draw the line between those two?
There's it's like, it's kind of hard to see the line, honestly, sometimes. I think when it really gets blurred, it's when you start creating forms or characters and stuff like that. Not like fusions. Fusions, you know, that's simple stuff when it comes to Dragon Ball. You could create a billion characters with that and still be possible in the universe. But like when you create different sons or daughters, that starts to become a little more fanfiction. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I think more people should embrace that and do their own original things with this story. Because growing up, you know, I read a lot of Star Wars comics and books and stuff like that, and like that universe was massive. It lent itself really well to what ifs, lent itself really well to an expanded universe, and I really wish Dragon Ball had that. Like even Naruto has an expanded universe thanks to its books and stuff like that. I wish Dragon Ball had something like that, and we don't, and that's why I do the things I do, is because this is stuff I've wanted to see as a kid. You know, like, for example, not all of my what ifs are what ifs, strictly. Some of them, like, it's not really pushing the envelope, more as it is just writing stuff that doesn't change too many things. Like, my latest what if that did really well was What If Goku Met Bardock. And that one was an adaptation of a what if in Burst Limit and Raging Blast. But I treated it more like an expanded universe thing, like something that would have happened in a book or a spin-off episode, miniseries or something like that. Something that could have happened in between these two things that doesn't affect anything else around it, so it doesn't make huge changes through the timeline. So it's a little different from the usual what ifs I do. But so I think that one in a sense that it doesn't affect everything else around it is a little more fanfiction-y. But it was super rewarding. It's probably one of my favorite stories I've made. And it was a lot of fun. And I think, you know, if people were to take those chances with characters or combinations of techniques or transformations, stuff like that, I think it would be a lot more fun. But I know people are really adverse to that kind of thing.
Yeah, the community can be a little anal with kind of like, oh, that's not canon, that's, you know, so-and-so and so-and-so like that. One really good example I've seen is like, oh, you can't, you know, talk about this because this character was only in a movie. It's like, let's just have fun with it, though, you know? I totally get what you're saying with sometimes it's just really fun to expand the universe, because you are 100% correct to that. Dragon Ball could really, really, really expand its universe. One thing I've always been really like interested in is what was like the universe like when Frieza was in full power. You know, was it a thing where it's like you're in constant fear of your planet just being attacked and taken from you and you just being snuffed out as a race? or as a species even? Was it maybe you pay Frieza off to not attack your planet? Who was buying these planets? There's a lot of questions that was never really answered about the whole planet trade thing that I would really love to see, that we're just likely never going to see because it's just not that interesting aside from the fights, which I love Dragon Ball fights. It's just sometimes that's not the only thing I read or watch Dragon Ball for. It's just the fights. So I love expanding the universe just like you do. So I really, really, really do kind of sympathize with you on that. Expanding the universe is probably one of my number one things with writing a what if. When I write a what if, I always want to feel like this could have happened. This definitely could have happened. If the timeline branched off in just, X amount of way, yeah, this could have really happened. That's always my goal with it. Sometimes I'm like, all right, but let's also tell an interesting story, and that doesn't happen. I think the Dragon Ball What If I've gone the most off the walls with is my What If Goku joined Raditz, because I don't know where I want to start off with it, but it is not the same place that I'm ending it, and I'm really excited about it because like, all right, let's do something fun. And it's not going to be okay, this could have happened. It'll be this really couldn't have happened, but hey, it's a fun story. The universe, gets some type of expansion to it. There's a different timeline that is fun to watch and cool to see, and it's interesting. So I definitely get that. That's a great line to draw in the sand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then there's other things, like sometimes you have to use headcanon in these types of things. For example, Super Saiyan 4 is a completely different transformation than anything else we've ever seen, and it's basically treated as a base form for Goku in GT once he gets it. It basically brings him to his peak performance as an adult Saiyan, and plus all the multipliers and stuff like that. So I thought to myself, this in the series itself, it's treated basically as a base form. So there's no reason for me not to go crazy with this and combine it with Super Saiyan God. That was for my What If Beerus woke up in GT. So I made a Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan 4. It was crazy. It's super overpowered, and the power levels in that series are completely all over the place and don't make any sense. But I wanted to tell an interesting story. Just the fact that I had this transformation to make it a little more interesting, I don't think that detracts from anything.
Yeah, and that doesn't necessarily not make any sense, because Goku Super Saiyan 4 is treated like a base form. He can stack power onto it. He can remain in the form for a pretty long amount of time. There are moments when he says, okay, now I'm actually going all out with it. So it seems like it can be a base form for him. And God is supposed to be like your new base once you absorb it, and beyond that, Super Saiyan God. Super Saiyan is just stacking Super Saiyan on top of whatever your God is. So technically, Super Saiyan Blue 2 is possible, and Super Saiyan 3 Blue are possible. These are all things that are within the realm of possibility in Dragon Ball. I doubt they'll ever do them, because I feel like somebody has noticed, okay, Super Saiyan Blue isn't that popular. It's not that popular transformation. We're not going to stop shoving it down people's throats, because all the determined power, Goku didn't just stay in blue. That was something that I really noticed. They didn't just shove it down our throats constantly. So you're not totally wrong, and that's something I really, really love about your content, is that even when you go off the walls, the story, the material so well that it's all right, he's off the wall right now. He's not going the same beaten path, but he knows what he's talking about to an extent where it's he's not saying, okay, now Goku's using chakra from Naruto. He's not doing that. He knows what he's talking about, right? That's something I've always really loved about your content.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, no, I feel like both of us have good strength in that. I think both of us started off doing pretty wacky stuff, really testing the grounds, and then moved forward. As we move forward, we did wacky stuff still, but we also started to make things that are more base level. This would happen if this happened.
Yeah, and that's something else I kind of want to talk about, is that the whole as funny as it the game has changed. The What If game has changed. It's not the same game it used to be. There's more people doing this now than ever before. This was just Quaman and Smugstick, or not Smugstick, but Moscow X, when this really popped off, and then it just gangbusters just flooding in. It was yo, and there was one boom, right? I think it was last winter where I just noticed it was like, yo, there are a ton. There is a sea of Dragon Ball What If content right now, and some people didn't like it. Some people were like, all right, this is getting a little oversaturated. I loved it, man. It was so cool to me because like, all right, this is gonna breed competition. This is gonna breed betterment between content creators, and I think that's where a lot of people's growth as these storytellers in the Dragon Ball universe has kind of come from. I've noticed that Moscow X is kind of changing up his form. He used to be a lot more kind of serious with his what ifs. Now it seems like he's a lot more laid back and kind of just telling a fun story. Kind of what, you know, the people who were under him that weren't as big as him were doing, like just telling a fun story. Seems like he's doing that now because those seem to be a little bit more popular than just straightforward 100% like completely logical what ifs. And I love that. I'm so happy about that. It's kind of slowing down now. I've noticed that. I noticed like I stopped seeing so many suggested to me. It's mostly just the people who have been doing Dragon Ball What Ifs for a long time and are going to continue doing Dragon Ball What Ifs for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that it slowed down, just because, you know, when something's oversaturated, people tend to get tired of it. So I was afraid that would happen because I really like doing these, and you know they do well, so they're, you know, it's rewarding to do. So I'm glad that the people that have stayed are the ones that stayed. You know, I'm glad that those are the people that are growing. Those are the people that really shown, you know, this is what people want. I think many of us do things that differentiate each other. You know, if I'm making sense. For example, a lot of you guys do more explaining type of things. You know, you guys don't really, not you, but like some people that I've seen, they really try to, like you said, say this would happen this way because so and so, and you know, here's a few manga panels to prove myself, and like I do that too sometimes, but more than that, I try to tell it like a storybook or like an audiobook. But that's why I use music from the show. I use sound effects every now and then. I have my last time on Dragon Ball Z intro in every single one of my what ifs. I have my eye catch for the ad space. I have the voice acting here and there. I feel like that's what I like to do. I like to try to make it more feel like the show or something that could have come from the show, to make it feel like it's not just somebody saying this would happen this way, but tell it more fun, you know, more in a Dragon Ball type of way.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I try and do that. I try and make it a lot more cinematic, a lot more just fun to sit back and watch. I feel like the only reason I'll ever do like, this is happening because this and this and this and that and that and that and that, is because I want to like give the sticklers of the content some type of like, hey, this is why I feel like this, and just so you understand my mindset. I don't have to spend like 15 minutes typing it out and then retyping it for somebody else who had the exact same like, you know, idea as you. Let me just nip that in the bud now. That's why I usually do that type of stuff. And I'm noticing that it's happening less and less and less, because either people are getting used to me being a little off the walls and having more creative ideas, or my writing is getting a little bit more logical to where it's like, okay, he's not really making as many, you know, things that I kind of contest as much now. I think it might be the latter, but it can definitely be the former. But I love putting voice acting in what ifs right now, because it is so cool to see that all come together and it really tell a completely woven together story. That's why I've been like in such a euphoric state since I finished this What If Goku Landed on Planet Namek thing, because there's a few scenes in there where they're like really good voice acting. There's a scene where Gine like saves Broly from somebody, and Amai Nico, who did the voice for that, she like poured her heart and soul into that, and it like came out really, really, really good. And I remember watching that the other day and like finishing it and being like, holy crap, I made this. And this is really cinematic and really, really like cool to see like all come together. So I definitely get what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Like that reminds me of the it doesn't have to do with voice acting, but the second part of What If Beerus woke up in GT. The ending of that is my favorite thing I've ever done. I just think it was super fun because it was a callback to the Dragon Ball Super manga when Goku uses Hakai against Zamasu. And that's the way I have Goku defeat Omega Shenron. He uses Hakai and against Omega Shenron as a Super Saiyan. So that like I watched that like 3 times in a row. Every time I click on the video, just because I love the way it ended, like the music and the stuff on screen. You know, I did this pixel thing, so like it would seem like he was getting swift away. It was super cool to see, and it was super fun to work on it. And when you put it all together, it's just like, dang, that was satisfying. You know.
That's when you know you're making good content, is when you're like getting hyped watching it yourself. I noticed that the other day when I was like, I've edited this for like 9 hours straight. At one point, I was so ready to throw my laptop because I was just sick of seeing the same thing. But like when it all comes together, once it's uploaded and I see people like enjoying it with me, and I'm like, holy crap, this is really, really, really dope. That's why I love making what ifs. Like I get really excited about this stuff. That's why I love doing.
Yeah, exactly.
What else was there for us to talk about? I want to fill up an hour.
Sorry.
Talked about.
How long are we now?
We're going about 50 minutes, I think. So we need about 10 more.
Okay.
And I'll probably...
Here, let me say something real quick.
Go ahead.
Okay. Shit. Oh, well, what I was gonna say. Okay. Yeah, like you were saying earlier, you were talking about the, you know, it's saying how things happen this way because of that, so you don't get all those comments and stuff like that. You know, I like you said, I know a lot about Dragon Ball, way more than I should know about Dragon Ball, and that's not to say that I know more than people or anything like that. It's just that I've researched the show a lot because I had a lot of spare time in high school. So so when I write things, you know, I write knowing the stuff I know. So when I write, you know, Goku puts 2 fingers up to his head and teleports and says Kai Kai, you know, to me that means that Goku's using the teleportation that Kaioshin has. But you would not believe the amount of comments I've gotten on that video saying Goku doesn't know instant transmission when that's not what he's using. But that's on me because I didn't clarify that Goku specifically learned the teleportation of the gods, you know?
Yeah. Some people aren't. I feel like I'm gonna. I'm still here. I feel like I'm gonna rag on people who watch my content, which is that's not my goal in saying this. Some people aren't as well researched as they think they are. Like they'll make a comment like, "Oh, this never happened in the show," and it's like, yeah, the show isn't really canon, dog. Like you might want to stop and read the manga. That's another thing I want to say is you guys should all go and read the Dragon Ball manga from start to finish. It is an investment in the fandom if you're going to be a part of it, I think, because we're Dragon Ball fans. We debate all the time about the smallest stuff, so it's kind of an investment in your knowledge of being able to kind of argue what you want to argue, and it's an investment in your enjoyment of things later down the road in the series, because a lot of the things we still see are throwbacks and callbacks to stuff that happened really early on. There's a lot of fan service for people who've read the manga, still reading the manga now. So I definitely encourage you guys to read the manga. But yeah, a lot of people just aren't as well researched as they think they are before they make a statement. So when that happens, I've been really bad about this beforehand. I've been trying to make a better change about it now. It's okay, well, you know, you might not know as much as you think you are, so here's just kind of the other information you might be missing. Hope this helps. Give them a thumbs up and a smiley face and kind of just end it there. If they don't, you know, kind of concede the argument, they are kind of like, all right, well, you know, thanks for the view. Glad you enjoyed enough to click on the video, but if you didn't like this one little part of it, that's kind of, you know, whatever it is, man. I can't sit here and just try and please everybody. That's gonna make really bad content, me trying to please everybody. So yeah.
Yeah, I've been struggling with that. I've shown you a couple of screenshots that bothered me. I think I used to have a thicker skin before I started getting big on YouTube. But man, some of these comments really get to my core, man. I want to punch somebody. Because they're just so annoying sometimes.
Oh yeah, all of you, I want you to know this. Me and Smug talk so much crap about all of them. Each and every one of our subscribers, we are all playing like, nah, we hate them. There's
No, that's not what I'm trying to say.
But nah, I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying. It's a lesson I've had to learn. I think I finally learned it when I was talking to one friend. I was like, man, this is getting on my nerves. He was like, are you really like getting mad over something over the internet? I was like, oh yeah, that's true. I have to thick the skin like about things that happen on the internet because it's the internet and everybody's going to disagree and be mad at each other. So you know why would that affect your day? So I've gotten to the point where if somebody disagrees, I tell them why I think I'm right. They don't agree still. All right, well, have a good day, man. Glad you watched it. See you later. I'll leave it there. And that's my new philosophy on arguing with everybody in the comments. I'm kind of just done with it. I feel like it makes me look immature as a content creator, and I feel like it's just a waste of time to just keep going back over the same points over and over and over again. If they don't understand, they don't agree. All right, well, give me my 2 cents. You're not agreeing, or you're not really proving me wrong. So it's kind of just an argument.
Yeah, that's what I need to do.
But no, I was lying. We love you guys. We love each and every one of you. Hugs and kisses all the time.
Right.
There's gonna be one person that's like, oh, I knew it. Dislike.
Yeah, right.
Unsubscribe. I knew it. I knew he didn't like me.
My bad.
Junk. Yeah, man. But you know what? I think this can do it for the podcast for the day. So, all of you, please go and subscribe to Smug if you have not yet. Makes great content. Way better Dragon Ball content than I have before. And we've done a lot of collabs together. Going to be some more in the future. We're going to do another What If Relay at some point. I believe there's going to be one very special collaboration we're planning on in the future that's a lot of you have asked for it. It's been done before, I think, but I think we're going to do it a lot better than it's been done before. So get really hyped up for that. Get ready for that. If you guys have any what ifs of your own, next week we will have another normal podcast. So be sure to suggest them down in the comments below using hashtag #PlusUltraFam, using the correct spelling. That's it for me, other than go follow me on Twitter, join the Discord if you want to, that stuff. And shout out to the patrons. Been really bad about giving you guys shout outs as of late. Shout outs to you guys. Really do appreciate you guys for helping me to, support the channel directly with your monthly pledges. That does really go a lot, and it does a lot for me as a content creator. Smug, do you have anything to say to the people before we leave, man?
Thanks for watching. Whoa. I blew up just there. Sorry. Thanks so much for watching, guys. This was a lot of fun. Love talking to Plus Ultra. We always help each other make what ifs. We always have our calls and discussing different ideas we have. So it's always a pleasure to talk to him. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to check my stuff out. My latest what if was What If Goku Met Bardock. That one's doing really well. I really like how it's going, so any support it can keep getting, I appreciate. But thanks for everything. Thanks for having me.
Well, guys, that does it for us. So as always, be sure to take care of yourselves and go beyond Plus Ultra. See you guys next time.
See ya.